And this relates to what I call death by small numbers. And that is, if you get into the meat and potatoes of it on page 18, that it shows blacks being stopped at a rate of 67% and whites at a rate of 33%. Well, that represents 3 people, 2 blacks, 1 white. And in one case, with regarding to the arrest that resulted, it was 1 black and 1 white. One was arrested for contraband in the car, the other was arrested for no warrant. And then the second black was not arrested at all. And so, like I said, that really sticks out. But it is, once you look at the numbers, it shows.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions on the report that you have on your agenda concerning the racial profiling? All right, thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Obviously, anybody can follow up with the chief later if you have any other questions or anything comes up that way.
And the report is also on the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement's website as well.
We should be streaming now again.
Okay, thank you. We're on. Got it streaming.
Okay. The agenda, following the agenda, next is discussion and possible direction to staff regarding potential neighborhood traffic and safety upgrades at certain locations throughout the city.
Thank you, Mayor. This item we discussed at our last meeting, but have discussed a number of times over the last couple of years. There were 4 projects that had come before the council based on, or 4 situations that came to the council based on feedback from residents in the neighborhood where these intersections exist. And the city had previously made some temporary improvements in those locations. And I guess they've been in place probably a year or less. And so at that time, we had agreed that these issues would come back to the council for reconsideration and a decision about whether or not to make those improvements permanent or how to move forward. So this past week, the staff met with Councilmember Vega and Councilmember Dennis on sites and along with Councilmember Gibson to look at these sites and get their feedback. Ms. Vega, Mr. Dennis had actually started the original, a big part of the original conversation about these intersections. So what I'm here to report tonight is basically what the feedback was we got from the group when we looked at these areas and what the temporary improvements are and what we the recommendations from the council members are moving forward. So the first one was frankly a little simpler one. This was South Avenue A at the Loop, where we have that kind of forked intersection with 2 almost entrance and exit ramps. We've since closed off the one, and so that seems to work well and accomplish the goal of being a little safer in that area. So the recommendation there is to remove the temporary barriers and eliminate the one access point that has been temporarily closed off, but also to try to kind of straighten out, if you will, the roadway, the South Avenue roadway to an intersection that's more of a conventional T. Excuse me, if I get back to it. So if you're coming down A here, in this area, we try to straighten out the pavement here to make a more conventional T intersection, maybe curve it back a little bit. So basically the final roadway would be kind of in that grassy area where that's separating the 2 lanes now, but we would remove both of those. Now, of course, this is all in TxDOT's right away, so the timing of this, how it would work, as we talked about when we talked about this before, once where we're at with TxDOT, once you eliminate a curb cut or a driveway, you're not going to get it back. So in this case, that's where we stand with that project. I guess I should say too, To refresh everybody's memory, we went through these issues previously. The staff made recommendations. The council made the final decision on how to proceed with these. So that's kind of where we're at now. We're just waiting for guidance from council on how to proceed. So you want me to go through all of them and come back, or do you want to do them one at a time?
No, go through all of them.
Okay. So that one was fairly simple. The next one was at Hillside Drive. This one is a little more complicated in that we did have problems that we heard from people coming out Hillside Drive. It's another function of a lot more traffic out there. And I should say first too, I forgot to mention this first, all of these situations are result from improper design and construction to begin with. So I think it's important to understand that there's, I think if we've learned anything through all our deliberations on this, there's not some magical solution we're going to come up with to address all issues and concerns and make this poor design work. So we are down to just trying to take our best shot of addressing some of the concerns. So in this particular case, the staff, we had talked about a fairly significant construction project out there, but we've since we backed off that and put up temporary barriers to stop no left turns there from I guess that's probably northeastbound traffic on Brenham. Put in a new stop sign at the to create more of an intersection there at the end of eastbound Old McDade, and then a stop sign right in front of, or right prior to the Hillside intersection to stop those conflicts. I think one of the things that concerned the group that Councilman Gibson shared with us was that now, whereas the school bus used to come down here and make a left turn to let kids off there at Hillside, now the school bus is coming and stopping at this location. And children are having to walk across the street to get to Hillside, which obviously seems, I'd just say, less safe than. So there was a concern about that. But in the end, the consensus was to basically take down the temporary barriers. People are still turning left there apparently, and it's not working to stop those left turns. So the two new stop signs we put up should remain in place because they think they serve a function. We would try to do better striping in that area to direct traffic in the manner that we want to see more of a conventional intersection there. But in the end, the consensus was to remove the temporary improvements there. Now, long term, it's probably one solution could be to have Old McDade come into a more conventional intersection here with Madison and make a four-way stop at that location, but we're a ways off, I think, from, that's a big project, and we're a ways off from having the traffic that would warrant that in that location. So this one, too, is to basically remove the temporary barriers, but to keep the new stop signs in place and do improve striping there. And then the final project was, or the area which continues to be I think more complicated and difficult to address is the Ramirez Road intersection at South Avenue Street and Main Street. The temporary improvements we put there was to basically block through traffic entering from Main Street or 1704 to go down Avenue C, and to make that essentially a one-way out location there. And kept two-lane traffic with no-through truck signage on Ramirez Road. The consensus of the group on this particular area was to try to reopen South Avenue C to two-way traffic, to remove the barriers that are in place there, but to through striping and maybe with the use of some of these barriers, try to basically reduce this area in here down to a more conventional two-lane approach, and to take this weird kind of cul-de-sac area out of play, to try to have that be more, with striping, have it to be more conventional intersection. And then possibly consider also closing Ramirez Road at this location. The staff had previously had made a recommendation about making that one way out. And I think this, closing this at this intersection would accomplish the same thing. We'll keep through traffic from trucks coming down Ramirez, but by closing it, you would still allow two-way traffic on Ramirez. So I think, I guess before I open it, Mayor Jessica or Forrest, if I forgot anything or left anything out on it.
I just wanted to add, Tom, thank you for that overview, that there was a public hearing specifically looking at these 4 areas. I guess that was about a year ago. Did receive some input at the time. I don't know if any of these recommendations are wildly different from what was proposed previously. I think really what you guys were able to do last week was to help just refresh, again, the intent of the temporary barrier, since it got to a point to where I think it was a bit confusing. I guess I'll speak for myself, and also just clarity on what is the best way to move ahead, and keeping in mind cost as well as just ownership. Is it something the city can do versus TxDOT? So I just wanted to stress again that none of these are really new ideas, rather just the options that came about as potential temporary solutions if you remove the barricades.
Yeah, I guess I want to add to clarify the Hill Street area, that's completely within the city's jurisdiction, so we'd have complete control over whatever we do there. Both Ramirez and on the loop, but that obviously would, we'd have to engage TxDOT, so they'd have some control over what we can do and can't do in those areas. But hopefully that would mean we could get them to pay for some of the improvements too.
It was helpful to go out and stand at each one of these intersections for a while just to see what was going on, even with the temporary fix in place and all. And the thing that stood out to me was enforcement, because we've had a no left turn sign there for almost a year, like you said, and on Hill Street. And while we were standing there, some guy comes up and he takes the left turn, and it's like, how long has that sign been there? Is this question. So it's just a matter of enforcement. We do have a no truck sign at the bottom and the top of Ramirez, and big concrete truck came rolling up the hill while we were there, and so it's.
It did help that we had a uniformed police officer standing there with us. They seemed to pay more attention to what was going on when that happened. But again, that's a good point. I mean, at some point, so many of our traffic and safety issues in town come down to enforcement and staffing, and we just don't have the resources to devote to a lot of, to exclusively devote to a lot of the traffic enforcement right now.
I'd like to make a comment that I really, on the South Avenue A and the Hillside Old McDade Road, I really do like the suggestions that have been mentioned. On the Ramirez Road, I'm dead set against any of that. When Ramirez Road first came up, I was against anything happening out there. But when we put the temporary barriers out there, I saw a difference. I talked to the neighbors. I've talked to 5 houses out there. Every single one of them is very appreciative of the way that we did that. Because what it's done is it's cut down the uncontrolled entry of a whole lane of traffic. So I personally don't agree with the idea of making Ramirez Road one way. And I like the barriers. I mean, I don't know if we're going to keep it permanent or not, but I like the fact that they have, it's a much more controlled intersection than what it used to be. In fact, it wasn't before, there was hardly any control there. So I'm for leaving it in somewhat the way that we have it now, even if it means leaving it temporarily with the barriers or making it permanent. So I don't know how we could make that permanent. We have to talk to Bo and all of us get together on it. All I'm saying is I'm very appreciative of what we ended up doing what we actually ended up doing out there. And all the neighbors that I've talked to, including my dad, and including my son, and including three other houses, are just ecstatic about the way that the heavy traffic has stopped.
That's good. That was certainly the intention.
Yeah. Council, any other comments, questions?
So just one more comment, just on the Hillside Old McDade. One of the things that I think Councilmember Vega had discussed too was speed bumps that were proposed back in the day that were supposed to be extra, because I think another big issue with that area is the speed. So I think that's something that we might want to look into, is like a way to mitigate some of the speed coming through that corner right there. Because there's speed humps further down, but they're way further down, so you have a lot more room to get up to speed when you come across that corner. And I think mitigating speed in that area would help with the issues that some of those people were having coming out of Hillside. So I think that's something we might want to look at too in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to add that all of these areas, I mean, some of the original issues with, one, enforcement, for instance, Ramirez Road, we were able to take advantage of the low-hanging fruit in all of these areas. For instance, in some cases, no through truck signs. Of course, enforcement is the other part of that. So with no enforcement, although that part I think I've seen definitely improve. So we were able to take care of signage, but all of these areas, the main issue was speeding. And these days it's been very difficult to address. I know in the past, there were some sort of test areas. In the future, the only thing I've really said about that is that the city would definitely need to think about, and we've talked a little bit about this, and we talked a little bit about it on Thursday, that there would need to be specific guidelines to allow citizens to understand areas of town that may be a good spot for potential speed humps. At the same time, with educating and understanding really what that means, because they're not free. At the same time, in the past, there was dedicated effort to really have a look at areas as well as just balance cost control, going with something very efficient. I think to this day, you can ask Chief, you can ask Tom, anyone, that there has not been a consistent flow of any complaints. You have people who have had opinions in the past, but for the most part, if that's an easy solution to help improve a situation, perhaps it might be considered in the future. Is it a permanent one? I don't know. At the same time, I think that if the city's moving in that direction in the future, definitely think about what the guidelines and specific requirements might be, since we're not really in a position to just go put a speed hump anywhere. But I think that with that consideration, a lot of these areas could probably resolve a lot of these short-term issues with speed humps, simply because speeding is an issue. And I agree with Arthur. I mean, we've seen it over the years as people are coming off East Brenham, taking that roundabout as it turns into Old MacDade Road. I mean, it's not only a blind spot, but it's potentially an area where people are going very fast. And originally, there were 2 more speed humps to go on the East Brenham side, but in order to balance the request at the time, 2 were settled, as you see today on Old MacDade Road.
Okay, so this is not an action item, Tom, but what the staff is looking for is direction, is that correct?
It can be an action item, I guess I was going to say, from the staff's perspective. Again, when we started this, we put in the temporary improvements and we made a commitment to revisit it. And I think, we've satisfied that requirement. So it's council's discretion. We can leave all these temporary improvements in place longer if you'd like. You can direct us to go ahead with the recommendation on 1 or 2 of them, leave 1 in place if Ramirez is still something we want to think about a little more. Or doesn't require any action tonight. We can keep everything in place and y'all can think about everything we've talked about tonight. So it's really council's discretion however you want to proceed.
Mayor. On the 2 that involve TxDOT, if we decide to take any action on those, will the temporary barriers stay in place until TxDOT decides what they're going to do?
Yeah, I would think, in any case, we'd keep the temporary in place till we knew for sure what we were gonna do. And, yeah, that's a good point. We'd have to, regardless of what we come up with, we'd have to coordinate with them to make sure they were in support of it.
And I'd say the other thing on South Avenue A, I'd had a couple of comments. They liked that we took the second option out, but the option that's currently there, you have to look back a really funny way to try to see the other traffic, and so straighten it out certainly would help that.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think that's what we
yeah.
were talking about.
Yeah, getting a visual on it the other day, it was just like, you have to kind of squeeze over to get in there, or even go around that island to make a right-hand turn into it. So, just to straighten that out and make it an easier approach would be better.
I think,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead,
To be
Tom.
honest, I'd just say that one, I think, with TxDOT, it's gonna be pretty simple. I think that one won't be. Now, what we do with Ramirez, and remember, they have the access onto 1704 too, so they'd be in play on both issues.
Both
for
ends.
Anything we do.
I think what we had said late last week too, that Ramirez, that area was probably going to be the area that required more time, maybe more time to study. Again, really looking at pros and cons, and I agree with Ron. He's basically has stated things that we've heard as well. I mean, that area is very interesting in that it's not only people don't know which way to go unless you live in that area, because there is no striping, there is none of that. So I think because the other areas, South Avenue A and Old MacDade Road, potentially with the longer the barriers are there, potentially becomes a hazard. I mean, we just talked about the scenario with the bus leaving the kids off, they have to cross the street. So I think if we're in agreement with 2 out of 3 areas as to how to move ahead short term, we should go ahead and give the okay for staff to continue to look at those areas to eventually remove the barriers, to go with the recommendation that's presented, leaving Ramirez and South Avenue C a little bit longer to be discussed.
Are we gonna need further engineering if we go back to TxDOT for these 2 intersections?
Yeah, probably. Again, what you've seen tonight is based on my engineering skill. So, yes, I'm kind of waiting for the council to make a decision, and we'll revisit with Bo. And yeah, we can come back with more specific reports on what exactly we're going to do there once we get it together.
I agree with Councilmember Vega that the first 2, I'm confident that those are good solutions. So if we want to make it an action item, and if we agree that Ramirez Road needs more study or more time, I'll entertain a motion to proceed with the first 2, and we're talking about South Avenue A, and then the hillside on that day.
I'd make that motion, Mayor, that we proceed with Hillside and Avenue A, and see how far the staff can get it before they bring it back for final approval.
Second.
You made the second? Okay, motion has been made by Councilmember Dennis to proceed with the South Avenue A and the hillside Old MacDade improvements as discussed, and we'll continue to study Ramirez Road. Seconded by Councilmember Gibson. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Dennis.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Council.
Our next item is our quarterly report from the Planning and Zoning Commission. If council recalls, when we talked earlier this year, when working on our boards and commissions changes, one of the things the council asked to see was quarterly reports from all our boards and commissions. And while we haven't, we're kind of waiting for the new boards and commissions to kick in June. David still wanted to start making these routine reports to council, so you have a copy of that report in your packet, just the general activity the Planning and Zoning Commission have been through for the last couple of years. David, do you have anything to add to the report, or if there's any questions for him? We just wanted to get this started on a regular basis, and we'll start doing this with all our other boards and commissions as well.
I have nothing to add. The report's pretty straightforward. I'm here for questions, though.
You're right, the report is very straightforward. Do we have any questions or comments for David?
Much appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah, and I assume that that's good input, because we'll use that as a model, I guess, to tell the other boards and commissions, those are the kind of reports council are looking for, but we'll, being a new thing, we'll kind of figure that one out as we go. And then I don't, that's pretty much my report, Mayor, unless council has any questions about our monthly reports or or has any questions about something that's not on the agenda.
The departmental report, monthly report of operations looks very similar to what we saw previously. So I have no questions. I asked the questions last meeting, so.
Well, because we skipped that one meeting, that's why you usually get these once a month, but you kind of got them back to back this time, so.
I will say, last council meeting, I asked, I didn't know what cases placed on inactive status meant.
Yeah.
And the city secretary did, in fact, talk to the municipal court, and she emailed me, and I still don't know what they mean. Maybe I need to get a little bit of a better handle on that, because I still don't know what it means, so. All right. So you're under your general activity, you're done with that as well? Okay, council, we're going to move on to consent agenda. The consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that are considered to be self-explanatory by the city council and will be enacted with one motion, 1 second, and 1 vote. Any member of the city council may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the city council discuss and act upon it individually as part of the regular agenda. Now, under the consent agenda, we have the city council regular minutes from the last meeting and a resolution by the city of Elgin, Texas, suspending the May 2nd effective date of proposal made by CenterPoint Energy Resources Corporation doing business at CenterPoint Energy Intex and CenterPoint Energy Tex Gas South Texas Division to implement GRIP RATE adjustments for gas utility investments in 2020 and requiring delivery of this resolution to the company and legal counsel, which is something that we discussed last council meeting as well. Does any council member wish to pull any of those items out? If not, I'll entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as is.
So moved, Mayor.
Second?
Okay. Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Vega to pass the consent agenda. We'll start the vote with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving on to new business. Item number 1 under new business, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing an amendment to the Aqua WSC Master Agreement for transfer of the Creeks Crossing Development Water CCN service area from Aqua WSC to the City of Elgin and making certain findings related thereto. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually a project that council just recently approved, the master agreement with Aqua Water Supply Corporation to begin the process of, through mutual partnership, for the city to begin to acquire and take over water service area in the city. This map just kind of provides an example of the problem we have all over town, where there are different Aqua and the city are different water providers and neighborhoods that are right next door to each other. So we're certainly attempting to address that. And as the council knows, this is based on the city's history with Aqua Water Supply. This is really a historic agreement that we reached just to play well together, given the city's history in the past. But this master agreement that allows us to begin to acquire this service area has many attributes for the city and frankly relieves Aqua the responsibility to serve development, which they don't want to do. They're not in the business of serving residential development. It'll help us create better consistency between our water service area and our wastewater service area. In particular, it'll help us have a more active role in commercial development that we haven't had in the past. Every one of these agreements has to be approved by the Aqua Board and the City Council. And the transfer fee is $3,900 an acre. And the next item on the agenda is number 2, so I kind of want to talk about these together. We actually asked council previously to authorize negotiations on 4 different areas. But Creeks Crossing has come forward in a rapid way, and we were able to negotiate this deal with them. So the action items tonight are both to authorize and approve the acquisition of the CCN from Aqua. And then the second item on tonight's agenda is to amend the Creeks Crossing development agreement to compel the developer to reimburse us for that cost. Creeks Crossing, if you can get your bearings here, it's actually right next door to Westwind. It's a development we've talked about earlier. Council had seen this before, but before the development started out there, we wanted to get in front of this issue. And so we've reached an agreement with the developer and Aqua to acquire the CCN, and it'll be no cost to city taxpayers, residents, or ratepayers. All of the costs will be absorbed by the developer. So the first action is to authorize the acquisition. The second item is to amend the Creeks Crossing development agreement to require the developer to pay for these costs.
And Creeks Crossing will be in the city limits, is that correct?
It will,
When
yes.
it's built out?
Yes, it's in the city now.
Council, do we have any questions, comments maybe? I can't stress enough how important it is that we are working well with Aqua, and that, like Thomas said several times, Aqua is meant to serve rural customers and not meant to serve developments that are happening now. So if we can get in front of that, that's even better. So if we have no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
For item number 1,
For item number 1, yes, under new business.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brazier, seconded by Councilmember Dennis to approve item number 1. It's read and discussed. We'll start the vote. Mayor Pro Tem Brazier.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. We're moving right on to item number 2, and that's already been discussed as well. A resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute the First Amendment to the Agreement and Development Plan with Creek Crossing Land Partners LLC and making certain findings related thereto.
This agreement is shown in your packet. It's really straightforward. We're adding a new paragraph to the development agreement that specifies that the developer will pay this $3,900 an acre fee at the time of final platting. The total cost will be $265,000, which, again, I would just say, if anything, that should be evidence that the developers would much rather work with the city than with Aqua Water Supply. That's why they're willing to pay this much money. But this is the basic concept. As we move forward and these become more routine, they'll probably appear on the consent agenda. But we wanted to have the council, we wanted to discuss this because it's our first one. But it's only about new developing property, and we'll acquire it. And as long as we can get in front of those developments to work with the developer, then they have indicated they're willing to pay this fee before they start. But it's another case that we can't go back and acquire property that's already been developed. But moving forward, this will work well for all of us.
So obviously, that's our strategy with new development.
That's right.
Council? Questions, comments?
I think it's a super great idea for the people that are moving in there. Just the safety above all, the water rate, the flows, and fires.
And fire safety, absolutely. I'll entertain a motion, council.
So move as presented, Mayor.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Vega, seconded by Councilmember Gibson to approve item number 2 as presented. And we'll start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, council.
Mayor, before we left this item, I just wanted to say real quick that when we did the master agreement originally, Sue wasn't able to be here because you were sick that night. But I think it's important to recognize this is the original idea to try to achieve this came from her brother, Doug Prince, and Doug had the forethought to bring this up at a time when nobody else thought it was possible. And he kept pushing that issue along with other crazy ideas he had about other stuff. That should be recognized that we've reached this point because Doug planted that idea in our minds a long time ago. So I just wanted to say that while Sue was here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tom. Moving on to item number 3 under new business, an ordinance annexing adjacent and contiguous territory to the city of Elgin, Texas, to wit, 6.990 acres of land lying in and being situated out of the Thomas Garrettson Survey, Abstract 178 in Bastrop County, Texas, and being fully described in Exhibit A, including adjacent right-of-way and railroad right-of-way. Attached here too, providing for a savings clause and repealing conflicting ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a routine annexation of property that was involved with the annexed area, we came to call it, that councils dealt with a lot a few years back. It's in the southeast quadrant of the city. When the city did an annexation in that area down FM 1704, that was back in the time where we could do involuntary annexations, which we can't do anymore, but the city had annexed certain property, but also offered to the property owners in that area that if they would sign an agreement specifically committing to annex their property if they ever developed it, then we didn't annex them at that time. So this is a piece of property that has one of those agreements. The owner has come in and has said that they want to split this property up, and David, my guess is probably 3 or 4 really long lots there to make available for housing, but it's simply the owner adhering to a previously assigned agreement to agree to voluntary annexation.
And council, if you'll remember, that's the reason that we put that lift station way out on 1704 was the adjacent, the annexed.
Exactly right. That's a good point.
Do you have any questions or comments, council?
Tom, I'm just curious, you guys don't anticipate providing services to this particular lot? I know we're already providing services to surrounding areas, but nothing unique about this area?
No, it's like anything else. If there's more service required than what's there, it'll be the responsibility of the developer to pay for that. But yes, I don't think it's a coincidence that, as the mayor said, that we've put the sewer in there and now this lot can be split up and won't require a septic tank.
Do I hear a motion to pass item number 3 under new business as presented and discussed?
Mayor, make a motion as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
So Councilmember Vega made the motion to pass item number 3 as presented, seconded by Councilmember Dennis. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes. Thank you. Item number 4, an ordinance assigning newly annexed property to City Council Ward Area Number 1, providing for a severability clause for providing an effective date, providing for a savings clause, and repealing conflicting ordinances or resolutions.
This is, as stated, just assigning the property we just annexed to Ward 1. You can see the circle on the map here. That's where this tract is. It's right on 1704. So Ward 1 seems to be the obvious place for it to go.
How far out is this? Anybody know? Is it
It's less
more
than 2
3
miles. It's less than 2 miles. It's right
Okay.
past Fisher.
Okay. So that makes sense. We're going to assign it to Ward 1. Do I hear a motion to approve item number 3?
So
No,
moved.
item number 4?
So moved, Mayor.
Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Gibson to approve item number 4 under new business. We'll start the vote with with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item number 5 under new business, an ordinance vacating, abandoning, and closing a portion of a street and/or alley in the Block 37 subdivision within the city of Elgin, Texas pursuant to section 311.007, Texas Transportation Codes, VATS, providing for a savings clause and repealing conflicting ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. This item, actually, the next 6 items on the agenda all pertain to the County Line Road project and moving forward with that project. So I want to talk about that in general and what the various action items mean, but obviously we'll go over each one as they come up. County Line Road is the Phase 1 project. County Line Road, as council knows, is something we've been discussing for a long time, and I'm really excited to say tonight that we're ready to proceed with the project. We're ready to move forward now with starting construction and getting this much-needed road built to the benefit of the community at large. We have the funding in place that we need. All the design and engineering is 90% complete, which is what we need to bid the project. This is a project that it's been in the 5-year capital plan for many years. It's been approved by different councils. I was thinking today that over the last year or two, we've probably had 20 different council meetings where this item in one form or another, this project in one form or another has been on the agenda and been discussed. And through all those deliberations, the basic concept plan hasn't changed since we first started. We have 6 different parcels of land that we need to acquire before we can start the project. 4 of those parcels, we've made agreements. We've reached agreements with the property owners. 2 of those parcels we have not, that we're requesting council's authorization to move forward with eminent domain proceedings. We've reached out to all of those, literally every adjoining property owner on County Line Road that will be affected by this project has received personal contact from the staff, particularly the people where we're acquiring right away. There's been a lot of interaction between the staff and our legal counsel. We've provided all the information relative to the acquisition of these properties in both English and Spanish. So we're ready to go. And the only thing holding this project up from starting forward is the action that's on council's agenda tonight. So if we get a positive direction from council on all the action items, we'll be immediately starting the bidding process. We'll then meet with the school board to brief them on the project. And then we'll be in a position to have a public forum where we can review the detailed plans with the general public about the project and how we're going to proceed. So we're ready to go, and it's a long journey we've been on, but we're excited about being able to move forward. So on the map here shows, obviously, we have a fairly significant tract we need to acquire from the Elgin School District, which we've had many interactions and deliberations with them. And then the other pieces that need to be acquired are 5 different tracts that are located on these other 2 circles I'm showing on the map, just to give you some bearing about exactly where the properties are. This is the general status of our efforts to acquire the property. Whenever right-of-way is acquired or condemned through eminent domain process, it's a very straightforward process that the city and any government entity has to follow. First, we have to obviously be specific about the property that we're attempting to acquire. We have to have that land appraised through a certified appraisal. And the initial offer on all the property is to offer that certified appraisal amount. And then there's negotiations typically that take place beyond that to acquire the property. And so as you can see on the graph here, we've been successful in reaching an acceptable agreement for the majority of the property owners. But as I said earlier, we have 2 tracts that we're not there yet on. I think it's important to understand again that all that we're acquiring is basically the front 25 feet. This will be on the east side of County Line Road. The property we're acquiring is just the front 25 feet. Across the front edge of each one of these tracks, there's no structures that'll be taken. There's no adverse effect on the use of the overall property. We're just shaving off this 25 feet from the front of the property. And just as part of the project itself, every property owner will receive obviously a brand new, highly upgraded street with curb and gutter, sidewalks, dramatically improved drainage in that area. And in each case where there's an existing driveway, the property owner will get a new concrete driveway approach. Obviously, we won't build a complete driveway around their property, but a new approach off the roadway into the property line. So those benefits come to every property owner over and above the prices that we're paying for the acquisition of the additional right-of-way that we need. So that's the specific status of the project. Now, the first parcel 1, is a little bit of a unique situation because this is the tract that we need to acquire from the school district. It's about a 1.3 acre tract. It's the only piece on the west side of County Line Road that we need to acquire. The school district has been supportive of this project, obviously, from day one. We've had regular meetings and interactions with their staff to make sure that our plans can coexist with their plans for their building. The staff has completely signed off on the project that we have in support of also the improvements they're going to be making there on the high school campus. But they were before they donated the property, somebody on the staff was smart enough to bring up the fact that over here on the Baptist Church property, that First Baptist Church that the school district recently acquired, they discovered in their survey there's an alleyway that I don't really have any rhyme or reason for, that's colored in green here on this map, that exists on their property, that they're asking us to close and vacate that alley, which would then, the ownership of that will revert to them since they're the property owners on both sides of the alley, as basically a swap for donating the right-of-way for County Line Road. They've asked us to close and deed over this alley to them. I think the map itself shows you that the city, I couldn't envision a use the city would have for that particular alley, and so I think it's a good cleanup for them and the future use of the old Baptist Church property. And of course, in the process, we get the right-of-way we need on County Line Road. So this first item on the agenda, that's why it reads as an alley closure, because that will close the transaction with the school district. There won't be any other purchase, and they'll donate the right-of-way. The other 5 items on the agenda, 3 of those are to approve purchase agreements that have been reached with the owners of the property, and then the 2 other tracks, we need to have authority from the city council to proceed with condemnation or eminent domain proceedings. Now, what I can say about that a little bit is that process is a very routine process. What it does is enables a government entity like the city to go ahead and acquire the property now and move forward with its project, but negotiations will continue on the acquisition of the right-of-way. In both cases, the ones we don't have purchase agreements on now, we feel good about the possibility of working something out in a very short term. But truthfully, sometimes this is just a step the city has to take to empower themselves to utilize condemnation, because if you go to court, then nobody really wins from that. Everybody's costs go up, and most property owners will understand that and recognize it. So hopefully this action tonight will encourage and promote the possibility of settlement on both these tracks. But the most important thing is it enables the city to proceed to the court, acquire these tracks, and we can begin immediately on the construction of the roadway. As we talked about before, The very first thing we'll work on as we build the new road out there is to move back on-course power lines that are in the current right-of-way. And that will all take place on the east side of the roadway. So this right-of-way acquisition is absolutely crucial to starting the project. So that's the position we're in overall. With this action tonight, we can proceed immediately and get this project underway finally. So I can circle back on this particular item, Mayor, but I guess I don't have much more to explain. This is the closing in the alley basically constitutes an agreement with the school district to swap for this right-of-way at no cost to us if we'll close the alley.
The alley is city property,
The alley city property.
and it's not being used right now for,
Not being used, is not open, and based on that map, I'm not really sure where it is. I think it's basically the parking lot between their properties that's somewhere in there. And again, what's unique about this situation is that typically when the city closes an alley or a street, the property basically splits down the middle and it goes to the adjacent property owner. In this case, since the school district owns all the other property, it'll essentially, the whole alley will go to them.
all right, council, we're gonna obviously take these one at a time. Tom did a good job of explaining what the overall objective is. But let's start with item number 5. An ordinance vacating, abandoning, and closing a portion of the street and/or alley in the Block 37 subdivision within the city of Elgin, Texas pursuant to section 311.007 Texas Transportation Code, the ATS providing for safe cause, repealing conflicting ordinances and resolutions. So what we're doing basically is we're going to deed over the alley that nobody knew was an alley to the school district, and in return, they're going to give us the right-of-way needed on County Line Road. Did I explain that correctly?
That's right.
Do we have any questions or comments? Seems like a good deal. I'll entertain a motion.
I have a quick question, Tom. How soon do you, maybe you mentioned, sorry if I missed it, how soon do you guys plan to start that work by closing off?
Well, as soon as we get, again, the whole project now hinges on basically this action tonight before the council. If we have approved the purchase agreements, this agreement with the school district, and the ability to proceed with condemnation if we need to, then we'll essentially have acquired all the property.
So
And at that point, then we can start talking about the project and bidding it out.
So the two pending.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I would
important.
say essentially immediately. If we can agree on how to proceed tonight, then all of that'll start right away.
Okay.
Anyone going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 5.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brazier, seconded by Councilmember Vega to approve item number 5 under new business. We'll start the vote with Mayor Pro Tem Brazier.
Brazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving on to item number 6, a resolution of the city of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute the real estate contract County Line Road, Parcel 3 with Erasmo and Oralia Benitez in support of the County Line Road Phase 1 project and making certain findings related thereto.
This is track 3. It's actually the way it's platted. It's the same owners, but it's actually divided into 2 separate lots. But there's one agreement for acquisition, and the Benitez is agreed with the price. I guess I forgot what
What was the price? 21,000, I believe.
this one
18,000?
was.
21. No.
25. Actually, this was when we started at 11. The Benitez came back and correctly pointed out we'd forgotten a fence, I think, and some other, again, that's the way the negotiation works. So we made a final offer of 25, and when I made this, that it was pending, but they've agreed to that amount. So it's 25,000 is what we're approving.
And let's not forget, council, the improvements that all of these properties will get besides the monetary settlement. Okay. Any questions on item number 6? Under new business? Do I hear a motion?
Motion made.
Okay.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Callahan, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher to approve item number 6 under new business. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Callahan.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving on to item number 7, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute the real estate contract County Line Road Parcel 4 with Ismael Gonzalez in support of the County Line Road Phase 1 project and making certain findings related thereto.
This is the track next to the Benitez, 25,000 is the agreed upon price for this one.
25,000 was the amount,
Yes, sir.
and he's already agreed.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay. Councilmember Dennis made the motion to pass item number 7 under new business and seconded by Councilmember Vega. Start the vote with Councilmember Dennis.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving on to item number 8, a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute the real estate contract County Line Road Parcel 5 with Fausto Martinez and Maria Sacero in support of the County Line Road Phase 1 project and making certain findings related thereto.
This is the next track going north on County Line Road. This was 30,000 for this track. And they've agreed to that price.
Okay.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve item number 8 under new business.
Okay.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Vega, seconded by Councilmember Gibson to approve item number 8 under new business. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes. Thank you, council. Unanimous vote. Okay, item number 9, a resolution of the City Council, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Elgin, Texas, determining a public need and necessity for the acquisition of certain property and authorizing the city's attorney to file proceedings in eminent domain to acquire said property interest. Parcel 2, Guerrero.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually the first tract. If you're going north on County Line Road, the first tract next door to Peppergrass. We've reached out to Ms. Guerrero numerous times, and she has yet to respond to our initial offer of $21,000, which is the appraised value. So
Okay, so it's not that she said no, she just hasn't responded.
that's correct. And again, it's important to understand too that we've, it's been a long process, maybe 6 months. The staff has invested in it, and a progressive effort to reach out to folks and engage them. Started with our staff just knocking on people's doors and wanting to talk to about it, and then it's gotten all the way up to the official process where we've complied with the law, and they've received an official offer from the city attorney, and they have a specified time frame that we have to wait before proceeding. And so, as I said, we've fulfilled all those obligations, and in this case, we just haven't got a response. But the simple fact of the matter is it's now delaying the project. So passing this resolution, authorizing the staff and the city attorney to proceed in this manner doesn't necessarily mean we'll go to court. We'll continue to negotiate, and hopefully the city wants to avoid that, but we need this action to be taken so that we can legally take the property now and start the project.
Okay, council, obviously, when you hear the word eminent domain, that's not something you want to hear. It doesn't bring anything good to mind. But I think also it's very important that we consider that we're not asking for anyone's house or anyone's barn or anyone's anything. We're asking for a 25-foot strip of land, and it's, without that permission or without that land, we can't continue this project, which we have literally been working on for a year and a half. We're ready to do it. So certainly, I find it hard, this one harder than the others, because we're gonna, if need be, and like the city manager said, because we say eminent domain, or we can go to eminent domain, does not mean that we stop negotiating. We hope to find an agreement before that point. So I'm certainly willing to listen to comments and questions that you may have on this one. We're talking about a 25-foot strip of land, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
And that's
attached to
all
the road.
well said, Mayor, and it's important to understand, the starting point is offering the appraised value. So we're offering the amount, the individual can respond to that, we'll negotiate from that. But we're starting at a very fair offer to begin with, but all the other elements the mayor just explained are important to understand too. It's a very fair situation for us that will provide massive benefit for the whole city.
For the greater good.
And for the greater good, that's right.
Tell me what steps the staff has taken to address Ms. Guerrero.
Well, we just tried to make personal contacts with her. We knocked on the door. We started, like I said, with our own staff, just casually trying to talk to people and let them know what was coming in the future. The city attorney has reached out directly to her, provided the offer in writing, and as we said, in English and Spanish. The city attorney has actually gone out there and knocked on the doors of some of these folks, following up our efforts. Bo's also interacted with people to give them the correct information. So there's no question that we've complied with the rules and the law. We've gone way overboard to share what information we have, but like I said, in this case, we just haven't gotten a response yet. And frankly, this eminent domain authority is, I think, the tool that'll make that happen. And it's important to understand, even though we go to eminent domain, even if we end up in court, the number we offered never goes down from the appraised value. It'll only go up. So but like anything, you get to court, the property owner's got to hire an attorney, and then everybody's costs are more. So, I had that question from somebody: do we somehow start at zero if we go through eminent domain? And that's not the case. The standing offer stays at least at the appraised value. And if an argument can be made that we should pay more, we'll listen to that.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve item 9.
Second.
Okay. A motion has been made to approve item number 9 under new business by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Vega. We'll start the vote with Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Brazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, no.
Dennis, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Council.
Well, Mayor, the motion doesn't pass. It's not.
Yeah, there's 5 votes, yes.
You have to have 5 votes.
Oh, that's
There's
right.
5 votes.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Do we have 5 already?
Yeah,
Yes.
We have 6 up here.
We have 5.
It's
I'm
5
sorry.
on.
We had 5 yes votes. You all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I went to college in Ohio, so I'm sorry. I wasn't a math major. All right. My bad.
Okay, item number 10, we have 2 public comments. I'm sorry, 1 public comment. Grant Hennig? Grant, do I need to read the rules for public comment, or do you know them already? I know them. Okay, sir.
I'm not addressing any particular person. Good evening. Once again, thank you for all y'all do as public servants and serving on as council and mayor. I'm a little bit shocked by your vote just then, and I hope you don't vote that way on this next item. It's shocking to me that you could talk about the sesquicentennial birthday party for the city, and Ms. Cartwright talk about inviting 90-plus-year-old people to the birthday founders event. And this, Ms. Lundgren, is 91 years old. has lived here her entire life. And I talked to her yesterday, and she has hired an attorney, and there has been negotiations back and forth. But 119, if that is the correct number that they're asking for, y'all can decide on that as well. Y'all can decide on to pay her what her land is worth, what she thinks it's worth. A 91-year-old Elginite that has been here for 91 years, longer than any of us. So I ask you not to take an Elginite's land. This is her cattle land. She has heifers on it. She has a tank. The city will be taking her tank, the water source for her heifers. She makes money off this land, a little bit different than these other residents, that it's just the front 25 feet deep of their land. This is actually a moneymaker, ag land for her. I beg you, all of you, to vote no to take her land. I do vote, or ask you to vote, to pay what she thinks is worth. If she says 119, y'all can agree with that as well. But I can't believe that we can talk about taking a resident's land who we're fixing to celebrate. I mean, I would imagine the majority of this room agrees with that statement. But please take that into consideration, and please vote no on this next item. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, let me read item number 10, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Elgin, Texas, determining a public need and necessity for the acquisition of certain property and authorizing the city's attorney to file proceedings in eminent domain to acquire said property interest. Parcel 6, Lundgren.
Thank you, Mayor. This is obviously the biggest parcel. It's at the far northern end of County Line Road to the city limits. In this case, the landowner does have legal counsel that is negotiating with the city, and once again, a number of things were said just now that are completely wrong. But because this owner is represented by legal counsel, I don't think it's appropriate for me to get into the details in this situation. We've offered the appraised value. We've increased that offer. Where we're at on this project, I think, is on this particular acquisition is very typical for an acquisition like this, and we're just kind of going back and forth on the price. I'm optimistic that on this one that it won't end up in court, but again, we need this action tonight to move forward with the project.
So it seems like, and I gather we've had recent conversations with Ms. Lundgren? Okay, so it seems like.
Well, with her attorney. Yes.
With her attorney, okay, yes. So it seems like the question is not, is she willing to give up that 25-foot strip? The question is, how much does she want for that 25-foot strip? Do you agree, counsel? That's what we're talking about? It's not a matter, from what I understand, and somebody can correct me, it's not a matter of the member saying, no, I don't want to give up my land. Would that be fair?
Well, I think it's fair to say that all the landowners understand the city has this authority to take the land. And in this particular case, again, it's 25 feet of cow pasture, as was said, and it'll dramatically upgrade and improve the property values and developability of all the property out there. It'll clearly be a benefit for folks, and I think it's a good example of we have one property owner, one tract of land that could indefinitely delay this project beyond the many months we've delayed it already. We went through unnecessary delays last year on this project, and it just continues to push us further behind on this roadway that we need for the community at large. So, but yes, I guess I would say, Mayor, the question is, we're just down to negotiate price. It's not a question of whether the owner recognizes that we need the property that's for a good cause, and that we have the ability to take it. That's why I think there's a good chance that we'll negotiate a good price. But since it was said, and we showed earlier tonight, the appraised value on this property is $80,000. At $120,000, that's 50% over the appraised value. I'm pretty sure that some people here, if they heard we paid 50% over the value of anything, that we would definitely hear criticism that way. So we're just trying to, as with all these cases, manage appropriately the city's assets. So I think there's a chance we'll work this one out. But again, we need this action tonight to push the issue forward, across the finish line, I guess.
Tom, I have a quick question. Is there, based on the discussion tonight with the other parcels, is there any wiggle room beyond tonight, say, by end of this week or even by end of the month? Any wiggle room to go back to the attorney to share details of tonight, basically showing that we've approved the other parcels and that this one's still pending? In other words, give them another opportunity to take in most recent information to consider before we proceed with potential next step of.
Well, I would say that, if I'm understanding your question, remember, we're not having another council meeting for 3 weeks now, because there's 5 Tuesdays in March. I'll just say that the legal counsel spoke today about the fact that this action would be pending tonight, so. And I would also say too, we've tried to be fair and treat everybody the same out there. And, you know, who knows how the other owners would have responded if we would have let any one of them hold up the project as well. We shouldn't make decisions on who the person is that owns the property. This is a business issue for the city. We have to have this property to build this project, and so it really shouldn't matter who the owner is if we're treating everybody fairly and treating everybody the same, which is exactly what we've done. I don't think there's any reason to delay this action tonight, just like there was no reason to delay any of the others.
Okay, council, any other questions or comments?
I'd like to hear from the rest of council members, see if they have any other comments or questions. Help guide our decision.
As much as that road needs to be done, and as long as we've worked on it, and knowing that we have staff who is still negotiating, I'm leaning, and I don't need your help. Thank you. I don't, it's hard. I don't want to hold up the process. Because as has been stated more than once, just because we do this doesn't mean the negotiating stops.
I think better said that doesn't mean that we go down and file this tomorrow, is that correct?
That's correct.
I mean, we have, until we feel like we've come to the end of the rope to file the claim, right?
And look, I'd say too, again, there's different people, different landowners from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different locations that are all affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've talked tonight, most of them have agreed to support the project. I know that her legal representative knows that the council is considering this action tonight. If we pause on it, then I think we're going to send a message to them that they're in control. And the other part is, I guess, as said, the council could pay, direct us to pay whatever amount they want. It's just my position, I wouldn't pay 50% over the appraised value for any property. That's makes it fairly simple math for me. So I just caution council about if we send the message that we're not going to act on this until the property owner is satisfied, I don't know if that sends the wrong message as well.
Tom, I wanted to add another comment that, you know, this whole area, as well as other areas in the future, I think our decision tonight definitely should be based on a business decision as you described, but it also helps sort of set a precedent. This won't be the last time that this council will probably need to make decisions, business decisions, for the sake of moving ahead with this particular project, which needs to get started yesterday, right? So with that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 10 under new business.
I'd like to make a comment before, we make that, can I make that comment before the motion?
You get a second and you can comment.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. The one thing that's important to me in this thing is that we're not questioning whether the landowner wants to keep the land. And that's not the question. The question is, how much money are we gonna pay for the land and that the landowner is willing to sell it for? And that makes a big difference. It's not somebody saying, I'm not giving up an inch of my property. They're not saying that. They're saying, I'm giving up this inch of property, but I want you to pay this much. So to me, that makes a big difference. And I wanted to make that point before we make the vote. I'm sorry.
Mayor, could I just add one more thing too? Jessica's comment is well said. It's important to remember that, as shown in this map, the vast majority of this right-of-way on the Phase 1 project was donated by the developers of Peppergrass, Harvest Ridge, Homestead, and Eagles Landing, and now the school district. So this is a relatively small amount of right-of-way that we're acquiring. As we go on to Phase 1, or Phase 2 of County Line Road, working from 290 back, there's virtually none of that right-of-way that we own today. So that's going to be a huge part of that phase of the project, of acquiring that right-of-way. And Councilmember Vega is right. I think where we stand today, I think it will almost certainly involve some of this same action, maybe in a bigger way for that land. So really, as this goes, as this whole project goes, we'll probably look back on this and see this as the simplest one that we did.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilmember Vega.
May I say one more thing
Okay.
in response to what you said? I agree that it seems that they're willing to sell the property to the city. We're settling, we're working on price now. I think this prevents us from getting into a bidding war to where the price goes up and up and up. And at some point in time, this gives the city manager the authority to put a stop to the bidding.
Okay.
Just one more comment. I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what everyone else was saying too. And the fact that this doesn't stop the negotiation, but kind of, I know we're given the authority to go the route of eminent domain, but what does that negotiation look like? I know we can't talk too much about it because it's illegal, but what commitment can we get that we're still gonna do the best for the citizen? Like, what is that?
Just the same
I'm pretty
thing
sure
we're-
we just give it away.
We're talking every day. And like I said, our attorney talked with this owner's attorney just today. And so, yeah, it's just as the mayor's described. It's
Not that she doesn't want to give it up, it's all
we're
about.
debating what the proper number should be. And as I showed earlier, we're $40,000 apart right now. And so this message, I think, will tell the owner that, send a message that we're serious and we can't wait any longer and have to move forward. But those conversations can take place daily until we get a purchase agreement.
Matthew, did you want to say anything?
No?
I forget who made the motion.
I made the motion.
Okay. Motion has been made by Councilmember Vega, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brazier to pass item number 10 under new business as presented and discussed. Start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, no.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
Ramirez, yes. Motion passes. Item number 11 under new business, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract between the city of Elgin, Texas City and Sarah Main Street O'Brien for the Sesquicentennial Project Management Support.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, again, as stated, the Sesquicentennial Committee has interviewed a new applicant for this support position and are ready to execute this agreement. But Councilmember Dennis will give you the rest of the details.
So after the last meeting, we went back to the drawing board and we reposted the RFQ for a consultant to help us. Is Debbie Cartwright told us we have so many things that are scheduled and just somebody to help us heard all that and all. And so this was approved in the budget that the council approved originally back in, when was that? Back in December, January, wherever it was. And so we had a number of applicants this time, and one of them stood out as just absolutely what it was that we were looking for. And so we called her in and talked with her, and she is an excellent candidate with great experience doing exactly what it is that we're about here with our celebration. She has been on the Main Street Board for City of Bastrop and the City of Nacogdoches. She was Tourism and Promotions Director in the City of Marshall. She has gone on to do consulting projects like this. She's did a single event for the City of LaGrange. She has helped as a consultant for the City of Conroe Main Street program. And most recently, she's working with the City of Denison on their sesquicentennial celebration. They started actually in August laying the groundwork for the year, and then in January they started executing that plan. And so the heavy lifting is over for her on that project, and so she's available to help us pick up from here moving forward, take what we have planned and help us execute that. We have prorated the amount that was budgeted and even come off of that sum to be within our budget, Mr. Mattis. And so she's going to come on and hopefully with your approval be able to start on Monday.
Forrest, do I gather she's going to be full-time?
No, it's probably 20 hours a week.
20
Is
hours.
what we're looking at to do this. She is highly qualified. She does a full-time and a half of effort. And she has that layer of experience to be able to do that. So we're very lucky
And what
to
will
have
be
the
her salary?
$2,500 a month through the rest of the year. So $25,000.
Was the previous,
It was $40,000 originally.
it was? Okay. Is she here?
No, she's not. She's not. She
Any
lives.
questions or comments?
She lives in Smithville, and so she's going to be readily available to be on site frequently.
Where would she be working out of?
That, I don't know. That's right. Right.
What did you say, Debbie?
That's right. She's a
Contractor, not
contractor. She's
employee.
not an employee,
Yeah,
so.
no, I understand. I'm just
So,
saying, Where will
Yep.
she be working at? Where will we find her?
I assume she'll be occupying some of the space in the Main Street office probably. That's one of, she'll be working close with Amy, so it'll be somewhere down in Fleming, I'd assume.
Questions, comments, council?
Sounds like she'll be able to hit the ground running for us with her
Yes,
experience that you described.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, when we talked with her, she had already read through our plan and calendar and all, and she was quite thoroughly versed on what we had going on already.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to approve item number 11 under new business.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Vega, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, to approve item number 11 under new business. We'll start the vote. Councilmember Vega?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes. Thank you, council. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 12, an ordinance adding chapter 48, site development, revised code of ordinances, City of Elgin, Texas, 2013, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for a savings clause.
Hey, Mayor, this is the item we had the public hearing on earlier. It's a routine update of the code to bring our code up to speed with changes in state law and common practices that we use here in Elgin. So it's bringing the code up to date, but won't have any direct impact on any current projects, current or past projects.
David, did you have anything to add to that?
No, a lot of this, well, I just have the following. A lot of this that we do now is already policy and procedure that we do in development services, so it adds codification to the items that we do as well. That's it.
Council, questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Mayor Pro Tem Brasher, seconded by Councilmember Gibson. Approve item number 13 under new business. We'll start the vote. Mayor Pro Tem Brasher.
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item number 14, we have two public comments. We'll start with Grant Hennig. Item number 14.
We missed.
Oh, did I skip 13? I'm sorry.
You did.
I'm sorry. Oh, they almost look the same. That's what. An ordinance amending Chapter 26 Code of Ordinances 2013 edition, City of Elgin, Texas, regarding municipal court fees, funds, and court costs, providing for a savings clause and repealing conflicting ordinances and resolutions.
Hey, Mayor, this item is actually an action item essentially mandated by the legislature. The state made some changes in state laws, how we're to record municipal court fees, and what was the fee we added, $25?
Failure to appear, and it's state mandated.
$25 fee.
Correct.
So these are, again, similar to the previous action, just bringing our practices in compliance with state law.
So basically just housekeeping.
That's correct.
Do I hear a motion to pass item 13?
Motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilmember Callahan, seconded by Councilmember Vega to pass item number 13 under new business. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Callahan.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes?
Vega, yes?
Gibson, yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Now, item 14, we have two public comments. We'll start with Mr. Hennig.
Yes, I saw this presented by our Mayor Pro Tem, and I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's been mentioned by a couple of people by running for office right now, but I agree with it, and I ask you to consider it in the next year budget cycle. If you look around, Elgin actually does, their exemption for 65 and over is larger than Maynard's. Maynard's is smaller, but if you look at other entities in our taxing authority here, like Austin Community College, I mean, their base for exemption is $164,000. So in reality, if you're 65 and your house is worth under 164, you don't pay any of their tax. So I encourage y'all to consider this for the next budget cycle. I think that the property values are running a lot of our elderly out of their homes. They're having to move in with their kids or the kids move in with them, all around the city, actually the county. It's all central Texas. I mean, if you saw today on the news, Williamson County property values went up 40% in Williamson County. So I expect ours to be quite a big jump for this next year. But I do agree, we need to give some breaks to keep our elderly, our older families in their homes, as well as you might consider just a homestead exemption for the rest of us who are under 65. The city can do that as well, to keep our homeowners in Elgin and not run them out to McDade, to Lee County, or wherever else, just escaping those property taxes that we all see come in every year. But thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mayor Pro Tem, and I encourage the council to consider it for your next budget cycle. So I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Hennick. Stephanie Lidke?
Good evening. I'm also glad to see the over 65 ceiling being addressed tonight, but I have a few concerns. This is very important to our citizens over 65 in Elgin. Back in July of 2021, you started last year's budget process. Y'all amended the budget for development fees. The city earned 4 times the amount of revenue expected in those development fees, over $3.2 million. There's plenty of extra money built into those fees, which should go back into city infrastructure and city parks. This happened in July of 2021 and gave y'all plenty of time to rework the budget funds allocated for infrastructure and parks and move those funds to critical services last year. They could have helped the over 65 citizens last year. So starting this discussion a whole 5 months before the 22-23 budget process even begins is a step in the right direction to make up for last year's failure to do so. The city needs to do more than freeze the debt ceiling. The city needs to double or even triple the exemption for over 65 homeowners. This will walk back the increases in property values created by your approvals of these housing developments, which have contributed to higher property values. Finally, y'all need to let these seniors defer their taxes until death. U.S. house values have been growing over 4% annually for the past 30 years. This includes the 2007 downturn even if your home increases in value only 1% per year, this will still be enough growth in the value of your home to pay for these taxes after death and leave equity for your family. Let me be clear. Just because you allow the deferment doesn't mean they are required to take the deferment. Over 65 taxpayers can continue to pay taxes if they are able. The 5% penalty that the city will assess for the deferment is solid investment.
She's not speaking to the agenda item. She has to speak to the agenda
Is a solid
item.
investment for the city and good financial return for doing what is right for our senior citizens. It's a win-win for everyone. So if you're going to discuss helping out our over 65 citizens, then do your due diligence and really address all the issues and not just the tax ceiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds. Okay. Item number 14, discussion and consideration of establishing a tax ceiling freeze in the fiscal year 22-23 annual budget for city property taxpayers over the age of 65 and direction to staff as appropriate. Presented or brought up by Councilmember Brazier. Would you like to start, or Tom, would you like to start?
I can start. Councilmember Brazier contacted me about this, and we've talked about it previously before. As I think some members may recall, the council had considered this issue previously, and really started about 3 years ago when we were talking about possibly increasing the tax exemption for seniors, and at that time, the analysis we did determined it would be too costly for the city to absorb, and of course we were talking about that kind of midstream on the fiscal year as well. So I think the issue here now is this kind of decision can't be taken lightly just because it may sound good to say. We still have a responsibility to assess what the financial impact will be on the city. And I think that's what Councilmember Brazier is looking for, is just for the staff to do that analysis and have it ready in a timely manner for, as we look into the budget next year. But it will take some work on the staff's part. And I think by talking about it now, we'll put if the council is all agreeable to it, then it'll put the staff in a better position to present a budget that already includes this accommodation in it. So I don't know. It's pretty much what we talked about before.
That's it. Councilmember Vega and I were two of the members that put the exemption in the first time around. Not only do I look at exemptions for people, but as a council, we also have to look at, as the city is growing, we have to take care of added staff. So I wish that I could just spend all my money on exemptions, but we have to keep in mind all of the other things that the council is responsible for to pay. I don't want to ever cause a problem with critical services because we did not do our due diligence. My request simply is to have staff come back, if the rest of the council is agreeable, with a figure that we are looking at to see if it can go into the budget.
So it's not a matter of doing the study for the next year budget. You want a figure. You want some monetary
I would like
figures
hard
as to-
numbers to make sure that we can come back and say, this is what, how the budget will be affected, and then we would make a vote and a decision at that point when we have the figure.
But
For next year's
presumably,
budget.
yeah, we'd have that discussion before the staff presents its budget to council. So if we thought we could afford it, then we would incorporate that before the budget went forward.
Okay.
Also, if you saw the slides, both Bastrop and Smithfield do have ceilings. We do not. We do offer an exemption for over 65. They do not. In comparison, just county.
Yeah, and I would just say in our defense, one of the things that we found out was the school district all provides these exemptions because they have to. They're compelled to under state law. So it's different for cities. It's a voluntary decision on our part. But the exemptions and the free ceiling are mandated upon the school district. So it's just important to understand that distinction.
Tom, I was just going to add that it sounds like this time around we have a little bit of an opening to start the discussion again, which is great. And I think that at this point, given that I feel like the city is definitely way different than it was even 3 years ago, that there may be other options to consider on top of what's recommended here. So perhaps in the next set of information, in addition to a figure or just looking at how it's going to impact the budget, we may look at some either creative options or anything else we may be able to consider with this opening of a discussion now. And I think it probably sets it up for just ongoing discussions every year at budget time, looking at how to continue to improve what it is that may be decided upon for this next budget year.
Yeah, that's all correct. We're in the timing's a little better than the last time we discussed it. Certainly, we're in a better position of affordability. But you're also right, too, when the staff can receive this kind of policy direction early on in the process, then it just helps us present a budget that the council can already support. So, yeah, I think it's a really healthy discussion to have at this time, and we can certainly, I think, do what Councilmember Brazier is asking for. Certainly can provide that information.
Any other questions or comments, council? Obviously, it makes sense to do what is being asked here, because if at all possible, we want to do the best that we can. And if we have the information early enough, then as the city manager said, we can incorporate that into what our budget will be asking for and looking at. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve that we move ahead, I don't know if, we're not necessarily approving a number now, but we're basically approving to give direction to staff to consider options and bringing back more information to help us understand how it impacts the future budget.
I'll second it.
Agree with that? Okay, Councilmember Vega has made the motion to pass item 14 as discussed, and Mayor Pro Tem Brasher has seconded. We'll start the vote with Councilmember Vega.
Vega, yes.
Gibson, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes?
Ramirez, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. Item number 15, we have a public comment from Ms. Lipke. Keep it to the agenda item, please.
Okay, I'm glad y'all are addressing these lot sizes being approved, because 14,000 homes later, it's an issue. We need to discuss the planned development districts, which are affecting the lot sizes. This allows for too much of a workaround, and it's being abused. Once a council approves the BDD, there's nothing comes back to the council for approval until the concept plans are done, ready to be approved. It's time consuming to come back to planning and zoning, then to the council for approval. The checks and balance system makes sure we are not overdeveloping these neighborhoods. We need more council oversight and not less. And the ordinance y'all just passed talks to those levels of dedication that you have in this process with zoning, with going to each step of the process and developing plans from the architecture till whatever you're doing. So if you have that in place, you should continue to do so and not just make a workaround with the planned development districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, discussion regarding minimum lot size for new single-family homes and direction to staff as appropriate. City manager, please.
Well, I would just say this, again, this is an item Sue brought forward and we talked about. I think she, like myself, I know this issue of whenever you have a large growth in a city, a rapid growth like this, the market conditions have changed, and obviously the smaller lot sizes are what the builders believe they can sell, but it's very typical to have a discussion about whether or not smaller lots are best for the long-term future of the city. This kind of discussion has been happening at the planning commission level. This general topic has come up a few times over the last few months, so I think it is, there is a desire to kind of talk about it.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to add anything to that?
Just a little bit. Councilmember Vega, we've been here together, so she just 7 years ago, I said 8, but I actually went back and I think it's 7 years ago, we, as a council, reduced the lot sizes because we were having no movement, and we wanted to see some movement coming in. And we got it. And I think now is the time where we need to take a look at and have staff come back with either new proposed lot sizes or revert back to where we were 7 years ago when we went down.
Is there a specific reasons, Mayor Pro Tem, that you want that?
I think we're good with starter homes. I think the number is, we're good. You know, we passed the 10,000 mark as far as the census said that our population is. And I just feel like we're at a place now where we have ample starter homes.
And just to clarify, we talked about, I feel like we need to clarify this on virtually everything we do. We're talking about new developments from here.
Correct.
Not in the existing part of town or the older part of town that I think we've learned kind of the hard way that in many cases we almost have to have separate rules for new developments or developments to come versus the older historic established parts of town. I would just say, advise council on this, that this is this can be a tricky subject for discussion, and I think my suggestion is that we should probably start with a review by our legal counsel as to what options are really available to the city. It's, I think the story is, the former mayor told me that part of why you all went down came out of the city of Kyle getting sued in federal court because we were trying to raise our lot sizes. And that's exactly what the city did when we were there. And we were, spent 3 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars defending ourselves, and we won the case. But the Austin home builders sued us, saying that making minimum lot size bigger had a disparate impact on people of protected classes because it makes the cost go up. So it's just a little tricky subject, and I think the best place to start maybe that is a legal opinion about what exactly our options are and what unintentional consequences may cause. But all of that doesn't mean we still can't have a healthy discussion about it. Because I think the thing is that we appreciate what you said, but it's never been proven that mandating bigger lots necessarily makes a builder build bigger or more expensive homes. So this is just a little bit of a tricky subject, but again, I would say fortunately, I think now is the right time to talk about it. We have had a proliferation of smaller lots, and so I just wouldn't anticipate a real quick resolution of this. It really is appropriate that we have some detailed discussion about what options are available for us before we head too far down that road. And then the other part too is, I don't know if you'd like to, if it would be appropriate for the planning commission to kind of run with this first and then have them bring a recommendation to council, or would you rather all the discussion be here at council?
Would it be appropriate to table this discussion until we were able to hear from our attorney and maybe the planning
Sure, we can do that too.
planning group?
I don't know what you want to do.
As long as we're talking about it, I just feel like we're at a place now where we need to at least talk about it.
Okay, yeah, we could, we can get, I'm sure we can get some kind of feedback between now and our next meeting.
Okay.
So we can keep talking about it.
Tom, I'd like to just add as well that, it's probably in our best interest to think about the conversation with the attorney as well as any other committees, but also aligning this with just kind of grand vision. Are we moving in the right direction rather than quick decision? There probably are other variables to think about that may come up with future discussions to then think about at this level.
Agreed.
And I don't think it was ever intended for us to vote tonight on whether.
No, not at all.
So obviously, maybe more information is after legal counsel, and then more information in front of us of lot sizes and houses that can go on those lot sizes.
I'd like to see something kind of like Shadow Glen that has staged sizes. They've got a good mix of lot sizes in that whole development.
If we can ever get Brixton going, that's really that's the plan of theirs, to have a real mix of product out there. So I don't, unless you want to, I don't necessarily think we need to vote on it. I can run with the ball on that much. Okay.
So there will be no action taken on this. Is that correct, counsel?
Correct.
Okay. All right, moving on. We will now be going into executive session tonight. Do we have any announcements, council? Staff?
I'm wondering if I may make a comment.
Sure.
Am I able to do that, Tom? Request or comment? I just an observation, because I think we're moving into a critical time in our city as well as just the council as a whole. I'm observing that we have several candidates in the audience tonight. We have two that in particular have been talking the entire time. I feel has been a bit disrespectful, not only to the folks sitting here, but to the rest of the audience. I think that if the public could see what we see from here, I think you'd be appalled by the behavior. My only request to the candidates, it's a wonderful thing that we have all kinds of folks involved, but act like you belong here. Act like you belong representing the city of Elgin, because we take it very seriously. We have the majority of folks here that are trying to do the best they can, and each time we come to a meeting, we've got one or two folks. Basically, I'm not sure if at times I'm in a first grade class or if I'm representing the city of Elgin. So I think that it's probably in all of our best interests to really hold each other accountable, especially for those that want to belong here. My only request is act like you belong here. That's my only comment, Mayor.
Do we have any announcements?
I don't have.
Staff? Okay. With that, we'll adjourn at 8:39 PM.